and welcome back to another Minecraft video! Today we're on the bakery server yet again, building Atlantis. My name is Shells, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in and get started on stuff. Now today we're going to go ahead and start with a little bit of painting. And this is something completely new to me, so don't expect this to be a how-to, because I've never really done this before. The main thing I wanted to do is basically set a design for the stained glass that I can quickly copy and paste without having to change everything and do everything. I'm trying to make this quicker, basically. I'm hoping for this, I want it to look kind of like the waves of water. Alright, so my hope with this is we have, you know, kind of an interesting wavy shaped thing, and if we take another layer of this and offset it a little bit, I wonder if it will create a natural gradient. Alright, so I have this whole thing copied here. Now I take 2 steps to the right here, walk in a little bit, some arbitrary amount, and then we're going to say paste minus air. And I didn't really need the minus air, but you can see that now we have it overlapping a little bit and creating more of a gradient. So that's my general idea for the windows, is what I can then do is select this and put it over onto the actual windows. Something I worry about with this design is that I'm a little bit too big, maybe, but because obviously I'm going to have only that tall of windows for that side, and these ones are going to be even smaller, so you're only going to get a tiny chunk. I almost wonder if I needed to make the waves a little bit tighter. This is another problem with having diagonals, is that I can't just, you know, quickly select this entire wall and be like, hey, I want this to be covered in glass. Because diagonal lines and WorldEdit don't really mix very well. Or if I'm thinking smart, I could just, you know, go along here and just, oops, and just paste a big column of it like that. That'll probably be easier in the long run. Probably the saddest thing about adding in these windows is I do have to hack up the sides of these pillars pretty badly. I've tried trying to implement the pillars into that glass wall, but it just it doesn't work the best. Now we're going to go ahead and do something kind of special with this. So what we're going to go ahead and do, I'm sure many of you who are familiar with WorldEdit are familiar with this set of commands, but I'm just going to come over here and select a piece of our big ol' thing here. I'm not entirely sure how big to make this, but something like that. I don't want to do the entire thing because it's too big, honestly. And what we're going to do is we're going to say copy. And now what we do is we come over here to where our glass is, and we're going to select from one side all the way to the other. And what we're going to do is we're going to say replace. We're going to replace the glass with what's copied to our clipboard. So we say hashtag clipboard. And bam! Suddenly, what was over there is now over there. And clearly I didn't get it tall enough, so I need to go back and do that again. But the idea is still the same. And once we have that done, all we have to do is make the other layers of glass and repeat that 2 more times for the other 2 layers that we have there. And we should get an interesting gradient effect over here. So here's what it looks like from the inside. Now I'm going to be a little bit honest here, that while some of the ripple effect is cool, it is a little bit lost when I have just the solid blue stained glass in the front here. And I'm wondering if I should have maybe put the blue stained glass on the outside rather than the inside. I think something else that concerns me is it just has too much texture. Now the reason for this is not only do you have the grid lines, since I'm not using connected textures in Optifine, but also because it's on a diagonal, it just has too many funny lines, vertical lines and shadows going on here. I'm not sure that it's quite like what I wanted. It's also maybe a little bit too saturated, which is something I didn't think I would have a problem with, honestly, because I thought that I had, you know, a fairly desaturated color palette for the vault here. Not the vault, the pillars. But the problem is that with the highly saturated vault tops here, it actually kind of detracts from that to have really highly saturated windows. I'm hoping that adding some tracery into this will help fix that, but I am not convinced that it will. The other thing I could maybe do is replace my blue stained glass here with a doing a white stained glass. Part of the issue, though, is that because I have blue stained glass in my actual design here, and it's diagonal, it's going to be really, really difficult to just select the stuff on the very front. Actually, replacing the front of it with cyan stained glass rather than the blue stained glass actually seems to have fixed my problem pretty well. However, I'm almost wondering if I should add a deep blue layer on the very back of it still. I am not entirely convinced, but I do note that you can still kind of see through this, which isn't a huge issue, but I also note that it is very colorful over here, so I might try adding some blue just to see how I like it. Alright, it definitely makes it a lot more subtle from the outside, which is fine by me. And I like the color of it more. From the inside, yeah, it still looks pretty nice. I can appreciate that. Now something I have to debate is what to do for the outside here. Now theoretically I could just take that same design and just have the lower level there and an upper level there. I think I'm going to do something different for the top levels. But my main question then is, do I want to? Alright, finished effect for here. We have that glass wall and that one down below. And now what I want to be able to do is take that design that I had there and put it out on there. Of course, reflection, it might have been a good idea, a better idea, to copy this and then paste it somewhere else and remove any sort of riffraff that I didn't want and then be able to paste it in a lot easier that way. Hindsight is 20/20, however. Too late. It might still work, same idea, but we're going to... It will be more difficult, let's just say that. I'm beginning to wonder if it might have been easier to just rebuild this whole thing instead of trying to do this the tedious and difficult way. Because, yeah, trying to hack this out on a diagonal is just painstakingly awful. And I still have to, like, fix these up and make them pretty again. Yep, that was more annoying than it was probably worth. But let's go ahead and copy it over to here and see how it do. Alright, so presumably if I put it right here, that should be about where I want it. Oh. Minus error, please. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave this here just in case I need it anywhere else. I went ahead and moved it outside of the bounds of my build here, but, you know, good to have around. Something else to worry about as I'm staring at this is I worry that the contrast of that deep blue is just really extreme. I was kind of hoping to make like a nice fairy tale castle look with this. And I'm almost wondering if I should either replace this outer layer with white or just stick another layer of white. The nice thing is I don't have to make a gap of air for that one, because all I have to do is place it along here, because guaranteed they're not going to have the same color match up. And there's my worry setting in. I feel like the white is washing it out maybe a little bit too much. So perhaps not, perhaps I'll just leave it as it is. Do you ever find yourself profoundly disliking the way a build is looking, even though you're not entirely sure what you could have done better? Yeah, I'm at that point with this build. I think it might be just the colors of the glass, but it is not vibing with my mental image I had for this build. I mean, the inside looks about like how I pictured it would. I'm pretty happy with specifically this wall over here, but I'm not sure I like this wall at all. And honestly, the colors just seem a little bit too muddy for my taste, especially as viewed from the outside here. The exterior just is not the color I wanted this to be. I wanted it to look fairy tale castle from the outside, and right now it kind of looks like blue barf on the outside, so as much as I hate doing this, especially considering how much effort I've put into this outside wall here, I think I'm going to completely remove the glass in there and rethink my wall. Here's the inner courtyard wall, for those of you who are curious as to how that would look with the arches in place. I still don't love it, but I think for an inner courtyard it should be fine, just something that's kind of neat. And again, I like how the wall length window looks from the inside on here. Alright, so I've been kind of hacking at this a little bit. You can see I put in a little window design. Honestly, it's not much. I think I'll probably remove this, but it was a proof of concept, so that way I could get an idea of exactly what this would look like. I'd probably actually use quartz for the inside of the window, just because the sandstone's blending in maybe a little bit too much. So my opinion so far is it seems pretty meh. Obviously I don't have the windows fully put in. I didn't bother doing any of the gradient partially because I'm not sure how to implement. I'd like to get some of that same wavy stuff, but I'm not sure how to implement it on these smaller windows. Presumably I would just do what I did before, which was put in the layers of glass, copy and do the replace command and it would do the entire wall at once, is probably what I would end up doing. I think there's pros and cons to this. I think that it will make this more solidly a wall and reduce the focus on the glass, which honestly it was the glass that was really bothering me. But I do still worry that it's going to be very, well, as I said before, bland. Well, it's officially been like 3 weeks since I've even looked at this thing. I think, honestly, I've been really struggling with these windows, and I was trying to do some sort of, trying to figure out the tracery I wanted to do for it. And then I was also trying to figure out the tracery I wanted to do for this one, and, it was obviously frustrating me enough that I took a week-long, well, more than a week-long, break from it, and, I think the best thing for me to do is actually to just move on and do something different. Obviously, there's plenty of things to do in this build. I think I was hoping to get this one little section done so that way I could copy it around to the other hallways along here, but time to move on, time to do something different. I think the things I want to do is a floor. I need to figure out a floor pattern through here, and I want to move on to starting to lay down at least the main pillars for this main room here. And so what that involves is I need to come up with a staircase, big floor pattern, and then start doing some of these outer arches, just so that way I can get an idea of whether I want to add more pillar supports or not. I know I did have one right there, and I removed them, and I'm wondering if I need to add them back in or not. One of my big worries with this particular vault here is that, I need to put this same fan design. You can see I copied up there so that way I could have a version that didn't have any others next to it that I could easily copy and paste places. But the thing is that I need to be able to take this same design and paste it on this pillar here. And you can see it's going to squish. So I'm not honestly sure how to deal with that, because then the thing is that this one and this one will come together to make the proper arch. But it'll do some interesting things to this design over here. A little bit worried about it, not gonna lie. Well, here goes nothing. Paste minus air. Poof! Alright, let's assess the damage. Definitely have quite a bit that I'm going to have to hack off here, because that needs hacked off. And that needs hacked off. But otherwise, it's on. Oh dear, that's the squishing bit I was afraid of. I'm kind of surprised that adding that line actually helped as much as it did, but I realized that I'm going to run into another problem. This issue is that I didn't actually make any lines that were on directly a 90-degree angle. Instead, I split it between these two, which means that it's not going to make my nice little shape when I paste this in. And I'm actually not sure exactly what sort of shape it will look like. So if we go paste minus air over here, what does that look like? It doesn't connect. It doesn't connect at all. And that is a problem. For some reason, I had this impression that it would just kind of paste in and make a nice little whoop-de-whoop shape and everything would be hunky-dory. But what I always seem to forget is that things are more compressed when you're working with diagonals than they are when you're working with straight-on lines, which means that all of these are going to have to be on a slightly different curve. So here's the problem. Here's what I'm running into. I designed it so that way two of these aisles were equal to two of those aisles over there. So that means that this shape here would equate to, being two aisles there would equate to doing that over there. But trying to put it over there means that I'm having to put in an extra aisle on the sides. So that shape should be the same as that, but it should be brought forward to be on par with that. So that means I need more pillars there and there. And that should be what I'm basing my main octagon off of. And then it looks like the one on the outside just isn't going to be quite the same length because this side is just going to be bigger because whereas this one is going to stay the same. And the same goes for that side. It's just because when I increase the size of the octagon, it's adding to that instead of adding to that. If that made any sense to you whatsoever, you can kind of understand my quandary here. Trying to make things line up right is just not going to be possible. Yeah, I'm kind of at a bit of a loss. I think I might need to stare at this more before I can make any sort of decision as to what to do. Alright, so it's been a couple of months now that I have basically been staring at this, not knowing what I'm doing. I was trying to force things to happen and they were not happening. So I've been trying to mess around here. I went ahead and splatted in a whole bunch of pillars here. And what I've done is I've tried to more evenly divide them in groups of 2. So this is a group of 2, etc., etc. But what it means is that I've actually got on the straightaways here, the 90-degree angle, I have a pillar right directly in the middle. Which is kind of a shame because I was kind of hoping for a big entrance that occurs in the center of this thing. But I just don't see that happening and still getting something that I like. Another issue with this particular layout, though, is that I have 2 big pillars that are going to smash into each other. They're not going to form anything nice right there. But that's so that way I can still get the 2 groups of 2 over there and there. And I'm honestly not entirely certain what I want to do about that. I think they might just have to smush. And I also worry that I'm kind of getting rid of my octagon here. You can see I have more of just like a rounded square, basically, at this point. Which, considering I was hoping to lead to a dome in the middle, is not exactly the most conducive. But I'm honestly not sure what else to do. So I think I already have my pillars copied here, so if I just stand underneath here, I can kind of start splatting in some of these guys. Yeah. Just to kind of see what they do. Oh, I didn't realize they would smash into that one too. Uh-oh. Alright. So maybe instead of having this on a straight line, I need to have this one on a curved line. Because I don't like the way that is turning out. And I don't want these to smush. Is it bad that of the options I've gone with so far, this is the one I like the most? What I ended up doing was I counted out from the ribs that I have here, the 1, 2, 3 pattern, and tried to figure out where my pillars are going from there. And they do still smush together, but the places they smush together align with some of the lines that are already there, so it actually doesn't look that bad. It's kind of wibbly, but I think that should be okay. Well, this is quite possibly one of the strangest builds I have ever made. So what we do is we build up these corners and then make a squinch vault here, and then stick the dome on top of that. It's just crazy enough that it might just work. This build keeps getting weirder and weirder. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. You know, there comes a point where you have to objectively look at what you are creating and say, this does not fill me with happiness, and try to start over and do something else. And I think I've kind of reached that point with this particular design that I have here. So here's an issue. I really like this particular shape. So I'm kind of leaning towards, having a funky looking vault that looks more similar to this. But trying to get this to line up with this side is going to be a bit of an issue because it just doesn't line up quite right. It's not the same. And then I tried to repeat the same process that I did over here. But part of the problem is that this line is the same as that line, but then this line has to follow a 1, 2, 3 pattern in order to reach that edge, and it looks super stretched out and elongated. It would look more even if I lined it up with that one instead, but I can't really do that. So I'm almost wondering if I do this iteration on the 90-degree angles and then do something completely different for this. Something else I'm debating is having these crossways here and then putting arches there, and then across there and there, which might divide up this space a little bit more evenly. That way this looks more like an actual roof section. Now the question would be, would I do a full-on lantern where it's an arch and then another point leading up to there? That might look kind of cool. I might try that for this section just because I want to clean up this section that I know I want to keep, and make it look nice. And then I can figure out some of the other messy stuff later. Alright, I can already tell that I'm liking this look a lot better than I liked that look. From the outside it looks a little bit strange. This one definitely looks a lot more structurally sound. This one looks a little bit more, what's going on here? But I have to remind myself that this will presumably be covered by a roof in the end. And I think I can get a much better looking roof out of this thing than the flat thing up here. So I think I'm going to keep going with it. I think I'm going to have to put main pillars on there and there, just because I think I want to do a similar thing where we've got a little tiny triangle similar to our triangle right here, and then try to make an actual proper shape that'll be more similar to those shapes going up from there. See, that just looks so much better to me. And then I can put some really pretty stained glass windows up in those areas. Overall, I don't see any downsides to doing this. Other than I might struggle trying to put in stained glass windows and not interfere with these things over here. But I'm honestly not entirely certain what to do over here anyway, so I might just be covering this with a roof all the same. So, yeah, I'm kind of thinking big stained glass windows, and that should be perfect. Ta-da! We now have this design copied all the way around my octagon, and at this point I can honestly say that this looks so much better than my bulby thing over there. So I think it's safe to go over here and just delete all of this, because I don't like it and it's going to go away now. Deleted! I know, there's still more to get. That's just because I didn't want to delete any of the diagonal there. Even more deleted! Having this section put in has definitely boosted my confidence quite a bit. So at least now I feel like this has more of a direction. I was getting a little bit lost there, not knowing what to do to actually improve this. I obviously still need to put in some sort of skylight. I also want to be able to put in a floor and stairs and stuff. But I'm making progress, and at this point I think I'm at a good enough stopping spot that I can go ahead and end the episode here. I know it's been a really, really long time for you to wait for this episode to come out, and it's honestly because I've been struggling with this build a lot. So I'm happy that I'm leaving it off in a place that I am confident I can continue with. So, yeah. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you can maybe take some inspiration from it. And especially, what I really, really need from you guys is I would love to get your recommendations in the comments section, please. Things like these windows, I might just rip out that window. I'm not convinced I like it. And if you have any other suggestions as to what you think I ought to do with this build, please let me know, because there are still a lot of unknowns about it. But I think that's gonna do it for today. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!